Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I'm Glenn McGowan. This is At Westbound. Today we're going to be talking about the E36 versus the E46. Which one is truly a better car? Or is there really even a better one? So I'm going to go over the pros, the cons, all the little details about them, and I'm going to show you two examples that I have behind me. So let's get into it.
This week's video is brought to you by LCOBMW parts. Visit our online store for E36, E46, and E90 parts, or follow us on Instagram at LCOBMW. All the links are in the description below.
Okay, to bring you up to speed, the 3 Series BMW from 92 to 99 is an E36, which is that one right there. And then from 99 to 2006 is the E46. Now, if you're into old BMWs that you can actually still work on yourself, these are the last of the analog BMWs, and they're just generally a great car to own and drive and maintain. They're pretty simple, there's not much to them, and they handle well, and there's a great aftermarket for them, and there's pretty much anything you want to do, you can do to these cars. Now, which one is better? Is there really a better one? So the E36 is obviously a 90s car, so you have all those 90s problems like the crappy interiors and stuff like that, while this one is a little bit more refined. But they both have really big popularities in the car community. I myself loved both these cars and had the E36 for a long time, and I just got the E46 because I absolutely love them. I just love older cars, and if you're a big fan of these cars, you'll understand exactly why. So behind me are two comparable cars. The black one's a 99 M3 5-speed car, and the silver one is an 03 330 Ci 5-speed car. So the E46 is like 225 horsepower, I believe, and then the M3 is 240 horsepower. So I would say they're probably a good head-to-head competitor of each other. Now, if you brought the E46 M3 in here, completely different animal. It's like 100 horsepower more. You can't really, it's like bringing a gun to a knife fight. So, you know, besides that, these two cars are about the same, and I have them both on coilovers, the dampening setup the same. So I drive these, you know, on and off, and I kind of can tell all the little differences, which makes them both equally great. So we'll go over these right now. I'll give you a little overview on both of the cars, and then we can get into the details. Alright, so we'll start with the E36 first. So these are more of a raw car. So if you like a driver's car that's really raw, you can feel everything on the road, this is your car. And also, if you don't mind a car that you drive and the interior just falls off while you're driving it, that is also the car for you, because that's probably the biggest, weakest link for these cars is the quality of the interior, the door panel, especially the two-door cars. Left and right door panels with the pockets. I mean, if you have one, you know, and you're kind of rolling your eyes right now because it's just a sad story, but it's just kind of comes with the territory. And then as these cars get older, the more and more of them are like interiors just fall apart. So like it's really kind of hard to find nice ones now that have a full, complete interior. Now, mine's in pretty good shape. It's not perfect by any means, but I would definitely say it's a good example because I keep the car inside all the time, and you know, I take pretty good care of it, but for the most part, you know, these interiors are just rough. So check that off your list if you're not worried about it. But there are plenty of like aftermarket, like one-piece door panels and stuff like that. So if you're turning this into a track car or something, you don't really need to worry about the interior at all, and you'll get a perfect driver's car. Now, as far as engines and performance and stuff like that, you can get a 318, which is a 4-cylinder. You can get the 6-cylinder, 323, 325, 328, or the M3. They all come in automatic or 5-speed. So pretty much like a whole array of, you know, options. You could get the cold weather package with the LSD, which is really popular with these because you couldn't get that with an E46 unless it was like a ZHP or an M3. So there's a lot of like good perks with the E36 if you were buying one back in the day. But other than that, we'll just look at this one real quick. So it's pretty much stock for an M3. Just a couple little things besides coilovers. And then this is the interior. Just kind of normal stuff. The pockets around the door panel are kind of loose, but all in all, this has a deluxe interior. So these are actually in pretty good shape. Glove box is kind of sagging a little bit, which is common. And then the back The leather's actually in really good shape in this. But you can see right here, all the material separating off of that, so it's kind of a common thing. But this is a convertible. I do have a removable hardtop for it too. Okay, now getting into the E46. And one of the reasons why I love the E46 so much is that it's very much the E36, but better. It's just a little bit more refined. Like, the interiors are that much nicer. They're not perfect. A, B, C pillars, headliners, that all sags and stuff like that. But the seats hold up a lot better. The door panels hold up a lot better, besides cracking in the wood and stuff like that. But it feels just a little bit more refined. So if you're like the younger generation, E36, you don't care about all that, perfect car. For me, I'm a little older, so I like something a little bit more comfortable to drive, and that's the E46 to me. And that's why I love that car so much, because you get in it, it still feels modern enough, but not too overwhelmed with electronics that it's kind of overwhelming. So that's what makes it kind of like simple and kind of right in the middle balance wise. The suspensions are roughly the same. The front lower control arms are aluminum opposed to the steel ones on the E36. The rear suspensions set up essentially the same as well, with the trailing arms and stuff like that. The only difference would be like the M3s had the bigger axles and the bigger hubs, where in the E46 the 330s had the bigger hubs, and obviously the M3s and stuff like that had the bigger hubs and axles too. But also the 325xi and the 330xi also had the bigger hubs and axles too. So just little upgrades like that were, you know, just kind of separated them a little bit. But other than that, they're all 6-cylinder cars. 99 was the 323 and the 328 to 2000, and then came the M54, which is 325 and the 330, and then you had your ZHP package, and then obviously the M3, which came out in, I believe, 01. So other than that, it's essentially the same car, just a little bit better in my opinion, as far as just refined a little bit more comfortable. But like I said, if you're turning this to a track car or something like that, you've got the interior, it's pretty raw still, and it's still very much a driver's car. So we'll walk around this real quick and take a look at it. So this car has the xenon projector headlights. This is a sport package car. And this interior is pretty good in this car. But if you look closely in the back, C pillars hanging, the A pillars are starting to do it in the front. B pillars, can't really tell, but they're loose as well. So that's just kind of a common thing with these. Okay, so there are two examples for you. So just getting a couple little pros here about the E36. I would say it's just definitely a driver's car. It's just a lot more raw, and you can feel everything on the road. It's got that heavy steering wheel, which is a plus if you are into that. If you were into older cars and you like driving, they make great race cars too for anything, or LS swap, all that. So all that stuff's been done too. So it actually helps because there's so much information out there, and you can pretty much figure anything out. And the aftermarket for doing LS swaps or 2J swaps or whatever, everything's there and available, which is definitely a good thing. If you buy one of these for cheap and it needs work, you can do anything you want to it essentially. And also probably the biggest pro for me is like the look of the car. My favorite is convertible with the hardtop on it with the windows down. It just has such a great styling to it, and it's almost like timeless because it's an older BMW, but it still looks somewhat modern for the most part. So that's kind of like my biggest thing with that, because I just love the way they look. I think they did a great job styling that car, and anybody who's into these or have these really understand where I'm coming from, because there's nothing better than like an M3 coupe with like the high wing on it. They just look absolutely awesome. So the cons, I would say, are finding a good one nowadays. I mean, you're going to spend a lot of money for an M3 or a lot of money for a clean low mile one. The sedans are out there, the convertibles are out there, the TIs are out there, but a lot of them are rusty. They're just rotted out, so it's really hard to find ones that are like well taken care of. And if they are, people want a lot of money for them. Or, you know, they just like the body's all good, but it needs a full interior or something like that, or it's just a 318. So it's really hard to find a nice one at this point. And as time pushes forward, there's going to be less and less of these on the road. So if you have one, I would suggest holding on to it, because it's probably a nice little investment for the future. Or it's just nice to have a car that appreciates instead of just going down in value. So just make sure you keep the interiors attached in those things as best you can. Okay, some pros with the E46. The first thing that pops off of my head is the interiors. They're just a lot nicer. It's such a better driving car as far as comfort's concerned. I wouldn't say as far as performance is concerned, but definitely for comfort. So it's more of a comfortable car. Like I said before, it's more refined. So every little thing they got wrong with the E36, they essentially got it right with the E46. But they also didn't really lose the feel of it being a driver's car. So same thing applies with this as the E36. They make awesome track cars or project cars or engine swap cars or just supercharging, turbocharging, or just making it a nice drift car or track car. There's just so much available for these as well that it's just an awesome platform to start with. Now, as far as cons are concerned, it's the same thing with E36. What I see with my parts business is that there's just more of these rotting out right now than there are like solid, clean chassis ones. It took me roughly like 2.5 years to find a lower mile clean chassis 335 speed because it's just like I didn't want to spend way too much for them because of really nice ones do a lot of money, and then I also didn't want to buy one that was rotted out because you'd just be chasing that rust forever. And the other big thing that they're known for is like the subframes pulling out, stuff like that. Cooling systems across the board for E46 and E36. It is a maintenance thing, and it's something that needs to get done. They're kind of the weak BMW links in general. It's just all that plastic in there, which doesn't help. So there's just a couple little cons with them. Now, as far as one being better than the other, it comes down to preference. Like, I have both of these and I love them both the same, and it's just like having children. If you have them, that you can't love one more than the other, even though you kind of secretly do. And then at the back of my head, I'm thinking, I really like the E46 more just because it's just cold AC and it's just a little bit more comfortable to drive than the E36. Even though the AC and all that stuff, the heated seats works in my E36 too, it's just something about the E46 for me that I like to get in, and it's that comfortable. I still feel like I'm driving a newer car, but like I said, it's just, they're both great cars, and owning one of them is definitely a privilege. They are just older BMWs at this point, and it's one of those things where as they get older, there's gonna be less and less on the road, so they're just awesome cars to grab and hold on to. So there's not really one better than the other. They're both really great cars, but they're also both problem childs at the same time. But any old classic car or any car worth owning and building usually is. So if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. Thanks for watching.